Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu5 and I got another knife review for you today. This is over the Opinel number 8. But not this one. This is the reason why I almost did not get this one. I was so turned off by this Opinel that I just assumed that all Opinels were just subpar. I want to be nice. But this seemed like a good idea on paper, but didn't turn out to perform as well as I would have liked. So we're not going to talk about that one anymore. We're going to talk about this one. This is the standard Opinel number 8 carbon steel, made in France, and it is an awesome piece of hardware in my opinion. Before we get things started, let's talk about what this knife, what I think is a good uses for this knife. What is it designed for? Why would you buy this knife? Well, first off, I think it makes a great training knife, and I've mentioned this in past videos that I believe that there are certain knives you should get your children to train them on how to use a knife properly, and not necessarily to teach your child that a knife is a weapon, but it's a tool. Because in my opinion, little kids should not be thinking of tactile knives and using them as weapons. That should be the farthest thing from their mind. They should be instead be focusing on the utility and the usefulness of the knife as a tool, and they can worry about that other stuff later. But this would be a good training knife. Again, I define a training knife a knife that you would give to a youngster to help teach them the proper use of a knife. And most of the training knives that I recommend are slip joint knives. For instance, Victorinox. Almost anything from Victorinox I'd say would be a good first knife to give to a kid. And your definition of a proper age for a knife is completely up to you. I'm not going to tell you when you should start introducing your knives to kids. That is a personal decision that the parent should make. But anyways, Victorinox case, more especially the case side buster, and this is one of the few locking knives I would recommend as a training knife, because the knife is a manual lock, and what that means is you have to open the blade up and it doesn't automatically lock. You have to physically lock it yourself. And this is to and I believe that knives, training knives, shouldn't primarily be locking knives or the manual lock, because it should teach your kids discipline, that they should have to think about while they're using their knife and how to use it. Okay, we got that out of the way. Now, what else would this knife be good for, excluding EDC and special states and countries that restrict certain knives that you should carry? By the way, I believe this knife is illegal to carry in Britain, which sucks, but it's legal in other places, in a lot of other places. But what else is this knife good for? I think it would be a great supplementary fine use knife for bushcraft and camping. Now, most bushcrafters are going to have a Scandinavian knife, and most campers are going to have a big camp knife or a multi-tool that they'll be doing the majority of their work with. But this knife would be awesome for two purposes while on an outdoors trip. One, to prepare food. Two, to whittle and carve, which those are the same thing, but some people can't understand when I say whittle what I'm talking about, because I have a speech impediment. But that's cool, that's alright. But for carving and fine cutting tasks, this knife would be perfect to carry along in your pack. Why do I say it'd be perfect? One, well, let's get this out of the way first. I forgot to say this. When I first got this knife, I got my brother to reprofile it. Not because it necessarily needed it, but because when my brother got his Opinel, he wasn't happy with the cutting performance, but he has high standards for what a knife should be. And he thought the knife could do a lot better than it came out of the box. So he reprofiled it. And after showing me what his knife can do, he turned this sharp knife into a scary sharp knife. I wanted to have one. I must have one. And this is the bit where I want to go over the stats, the specifications. The handle is one piece. Check this out. It's just one solid piece of varnished beech wood. Is a carbon steel blade. What steel are they using? They're using X90 carbon steel, which I don't have a whole lot of experience with other knives, but that's what they're using with this. They call it X90. So there it is. If you want to look it up, you can look it up. But what's really amazing about this knife is its weight. Again, there's not a whole lot of metal involved with this knife. It's just basically wood, blade, and the collar. And I'm sure it has a pivot on it, you know, obviously, but that's covered up, you can't see it. But this knife weighs 1.6 ounces, so why not carry it? You can easily slip this into your pack. If you're a minimalist, you know, you can carry one heavy-duty knife and this knife, and then a top, and you can do your minimalist thing. History has showed us that whenever men's gone out in the woods, for the most part, they weren't minimalist. They carried a lot of stuff with them. Either an axe, a big knife, an axe or a big knife, one or the other, or both, and they'll carry a small knife for their fine cutting task. And this would serve wonderfully in that task as a fine cutting tool for food or carving, like I said earlier. And I think it'll be wonderful for that. And you know what's also cool about this knife? It's classy looking. Now, you can get the stainless steel one. It can look really clean. I forced a patina on my blade using vinegar because the patina protects from the red rust, which is bad rust. This is good rust. And in my opinion, it looks awesome. It looks rustic. It looks used. It looks like an antique. But you can get the stainless steel version and not have to worry about rust. Or you can get the carbon one and either oil it or put a patina on it. But what's cool about this knife is just looking at it, look through the view at the screen, look at the knife. This knife can easily transition from blue jean pants to slacks to a suit and will be completely appropriate in any of those settings. You're just an everyday hard-working blue-collar man, this knife is good for you. Your white collar, this knife is good for you. If you're a CEO of a company and you can still get this knife and it won't look out of place in your hands or pocket. Although when it's in your pocket, no one can see it because it does not have a pocket clip. Which, to me, don't get me wrong, they should not put a pocket clip on this, in my opinion, because to me they'll ruin the style. And but I don't like knives just floating around in my pocket. I like this knife. I love this knife. I just don't like it floating around in my pocket. It's just something I have to accept as law. You know, I have to accept it and just deal with it. But this is a good knife. Just because it's floating around in my pocket does not make it a bad knife. It's just an inconvenience for me because I have a certain attitude towards knives, and I'll talk about that later. But yes, this is an awesome knife. You can easily wear it in any social setting. Now, you may look at this and say, well, there's nothing special about this knife. It's not just beautiful. Why would I, you know, what if I want something more? Well, they offer this number 8 knife in several different wood combinations. And if you're willing to spend the money in like a horn, I can't remember what kind of horn it is, but animal horn, maybe even antler. You know what? I might be able to look this up real quick. They have ebony handle. Let's see. I got my iPad in front of me. They got Brazilian rosewood. They got snake wood. And they have all different flavors of this knife. You can get carbon steel, stainless steel, ebony wood, rosewood, You can even get this wood that's etched or carved with different figures and shapes on it. And they do have you know, animal horn, which I just can't find it at the moment, but they do have it. I've seen it before. But those cost a little bit more. Now, which gets me to my next I lost my tongue. Okay, which brings me to my next point. Excuse me. This knife is amazingly affordable. I don't want to say cheap, because cheap implies that it's something like this, low quality. This is not cheap, this is an affordable knife. And how affordable is it? It is $11.95 on the Opinel USA webpage. You know, Opinel is a French company, but they have a USA webpage where everything's in English and, you know, in English, in American currency. And it's $11.95 on the Opinel page, which makes it extremely affordable. You can find it cheaper at some places. My brother says you can find this knife in St. Petersburg, Russia, which I'm pretty sure you can find it all over Europe. And they have it in knife stores, you know, good knife stores here in America as well. You can find it on Amazon. You can find this knife just about anywhere you want to, and it's going to be affordable. And it's a great bargain, a great value for the amount of cutting power this knife potentially has. And it's also very easy to sharpen. I've resharpened this knife here recently. It just took me, I did around on the sharp makel. I wasn't really thinking, I wasn't really keeping track of how many strokes, but I just ran it on the sharp makel, and it was back to scary sharp, fun time. Now, I mentioned this might be a good camping or a bushcraft knife, which it's not going to be your primary knife. It's going to be for a carving and food prep task. But I found out that this spine is very sharp, not sharp that it's going to cut you, but it's sharp enough to strike a ferrocerium rod, which I'm not going to do inside because I don't want to burn my mat. But you can easily, sometimes you can get it done without even opening the knife. I find it's easier if you open the knife, then lock it, that makes it good to have the lock, and then you can scrape it and strike a ferrocerium rod, which gives you a way to strike a ferrocerium rod, which is good when you're bushcrafting or camping. Hopefully not a survival situation, but if it happens, this knife will get the job done. Because not all bushcraft / survival knives have a good scraper or striker on the spine of the blade. I don't know why, but not all of them do. SC, for example, they don't come with a good spine to strike ferrocerium rods. But that's neither here or there. The video is about Opinel, and I am really happy with this knife in those uses. What uses? Let's go over them again. A training knife for your son or daughter, and a all-purpose utility EDC knife from blue jeans to suit is a good knife to carry, and no one's going to call it an ugly knife. To me, it's a very attractive knife, and you can get it in many different flavors. Also, as a fine cutting tool when camping and or bushcrafting, or if it happens, survival. You have your big knife for big cutting jobs, and you have your little knife for fine little cutting jobs. And I think this would be perfect. Well, that's about it. That's as long as I can talk about the Opinel. I don't know how long I've been talking for a while, but I think that definitely serves as a good review. Hope you enjoyed this video and that you have a wonderful day. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out.